Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody. Kokoro here, and today I am going to be learning lighting and texturing in Maya. So I'm not sure if you all know this, but for the last 6 weeks I took a course, an online course about learning the basics in Maya. The course is now done, but one class that I really needed to revise was the one on texturing lighting, so that's what I'm going to do now. Alright then, so let's go. Here's what I modeled, what you saw on the live stream, and now let's get going.
So we know how to plan all the other things, like if the camera was supposed to be like that, then we can see that the ground floor is too small, it's going to have to make it bigger. Or of course if it's like that, we can still go and scale this up a little bit so that it doesn't appear in our camera and stuff like that. Okay, cool. And then you can go ahead and lock this camera, which means that you can't do anything with this camera. It's just going to stay locked on exactly where we want it to be. What is the next step? Well, let's start with a little bit of lighting to get this thing started. So what I want to say to you is lighting and shading and textures, they all work hand in hand. And the reason why I say that is because if you have light without any colors, then nothing, you're going to see whatever you're seeing, but you're going to see it in this gray bland look. If you have textures without light, so these are lights that Maya's had for, you have to jump through hoops to get things looking good in Mental Ray. So they got rid of Mental Ray, and it was okay calculations. And because of that calculations, calculations. And because of that system, if you don't use the lights that are meant to go with the renderer, then you're sort of breaking that system. In other words, you can use those lights of Maya's old legacy lights, but you're going to not get the same experience as if you used lights from Arnold themselves. Okay, so in this case we've got all these lights, and we're going to start going through what they all do, and then we're going to start using them and implementing them into the scene. So here we have area light. Let me show you what an area light does. So before I put a light into the scene, let's render our camera. Here's our camera main, and I'm going to go excuse me, I'm going to go up to this render frame. Now again, Maya's got two render options. In other words, if you click on this one, it'll open up Maya's own sort of renderer. It's Maya's render window, but it is using Arnold. You can see there, Arnold renderer. So it's using Arnold, but it's Maya's own legacy render window. You could also go up to Arnold and open up Arnold's actual render window, which looks different to Maya's window. So Maya's render window looks like this, and Arnold's render window looks like this. You can see they're different, but they perform in the same one you want to use. So let's render the scene. And when I render that, you see that nothing actually happens. Now it's weird because you're saying, well, I can see it in my viewport, but I can't see it here. Well, that means that there's literally no light in the scene. So if there's no light in the scene, it means that it's going to be the darkness of space without any suns or anything like that in the universe. It's just going to be a dark place. Okay? So I know that stuff is there because I can actually click on this button. Whoops, not not there. Stop that. Sorry, it's not giving me what I need. That's it. I'm actually going to scale it up quite nice and big. That, perfect. Right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm still rendering camera main. You can see there I'm still rendering camera main. When I click on that, I should start seeing something. But honestly, I'm seeing nothing there. Okay? So, let's have a look and see why. Well, for starters, we need to change something in this in our attributes. Okay, so we've got the lights selected. The first thing we've got to do, before we do anything else, the first thing we always have to do with these particular lights is you've got to switch off this normalize attribute.
Alright. There we go. Okay, that is way too bright. Wait a minute. The lighting gets different. Let's turn on exposure. This is not working. I need it. Yep, gotta turn this down. Okay, yeah, there we go. That's going to be different. Yeah. I'm gonna exit this off right here. Camera moving. What is it? I'll do it for you. Okay. Okay, so this right. Alrighty, so the right. Set over rotated. Rotate a bit and pull it down a bit and this. Increase exposure, yes. Maybe I gotta choose the light itself. It's only really front that's lighting. Okay, let's see. That was okay. Okay. Let's move. Let's go back to listening.
So as soon as I switch off the normalize attribute and I render again, straight away you already see that we're getting something there. Can you see that? So we get what that environment thing would look like. So there's this light, like most lights, you can select the light and of course you can change the color by clicking on this little color wheel over here. and you can, choose to, do something that has got a bit of a sunset feel to it, because
Right. What I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna scoop this down, and I'm gonna make another one. I'm sure that this is copy. Let's rotate it. There we go. Here. There you go. Here's too easy. Oh no. Forward. Once again, now you'll see this here focus. And a little bit here. A little bit here. Move it up. Move it up. There we go. That's what it looks like. And now the sun will light over it. Alright, the video.
the more light you put in, the more photons are being shot into the scene and calculated. The bounces and the refraction and reflection, all of those things are calculated on every light, and each light is shooting because the more light you put outside. Right, so because the more light you put in, the more photons are being shot into the scene and calculated. The bounces and the refraction and reflection, all of those things are calculated on every light, and each light is shooting a multiple samples of photons into the scene to try and create this experience and the quality and the realism. And so the more light you have, the longer it's going to take to render. Okay, cool. So you can see here that these lights are versatile. I mean, these are called area lights. They're obviously one of our favorite lights. You can use it for just about anything, and we're going to find other uses for this later, because even though we're going to start with a different light for the scene, we will end up using these lights as well at some point. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to delete those lights for the moment.
Clarity. All dark down.
And I'm going to start with this next one, which is the sky dome light. I'm going to click on that. As soon as I put that sky dome light in, straight away we can see there's a result, right? I mean, that's pretty cool. It's pretty uniform lighting. You know, there's no contrast like the previous one, where there was a little bit of contrast because the light was sort of from the one side or from those two sides, and it left some shadows on the other side. This one looks like there's light from everywhere, and it actually is exactly that. If I zoom out, you'll see that this whole sphere is the light, and every one of these panels on the inside of this light is shining white light. This white light, it's shining straight in on our scene, which means it's sort of flooding the scene with equal light from everywhere. And I mean, that's okay. That's okay. But the fact is that it's not interesting light. It's bland and, yeah, uniform light. There's no contrasty stuff. A little bit of contrast on the inside because light is just not getting to the inside as much as it's getting to the outside. Right, so this light relies on a kind of file that we download. And I'm just going to type into my browser, and I'm going to show you my browser in a moment. Polyhaven. Oh, Polyhaven. Okay, so let's grab that and just drop it. Okay, there's Polyhaven. Okay, is these HDRIs. So I'm just going to say browse HDRIs, and we're going to get to this page where we can see all these interesting photographs that look super stretched out. Okay, so these HDRI images are quite special, right? So what makes them special is that when you wrap this image onto a spherical surface, it feels like it's a full 3D environment. So no matter where you look, you'll see this photograph because it's wrapped on the sphere. And what they've done is they've literally sort of taken it off the sphere and squished the sphere flat. So this side of the image lines up with that side of the image perfectly, so that it looks as if you were standing in the middle of it, you wouldn't know where it starts or ends, right? So it's basically like a full 360-degree image. Okay. Now these images are called HDRIs, and they stand for High Dynamic Range Images. High Dynamic Range Images. And what they are is they are firstly, they are 360-degree images. They also hold a tremendous amount of information inside of them in the form of higher density pixels, so that you can actually extract the lighting information from them. So in other words, if you had to look at something like this image here, you would see blue skies, you'd see green on grass, and then you'd see this hot spot here, which of course is the sun, right? So that's the sun. Now, if you were to use this image, then what you would typically get is you'd get the lighting information that would indicate that the sun is coming from there, and kind of lighting do I want. If I look at something like this lighting here, I can see that I can see that the shadows are sharp, and they are coming from a particular side. So you see there it's downloading. Kind of lighting do I want? If I look at something like this lighting here, I can see that I can see that the shadows are sharp, and they are coming from a particular side. Okay, but they're sharp and they're coming from a particular side. It feels not quite like it's midday, because if it was midday, then these shadows would be underneath the objects. So this could be, maybe 10 o'clock, or 1:30, 2 o'clock, something like that. Those are what those shadows tell you. If you were to look at this one, you see that the shadows are, almost underneath these objects, which means that the sun is almost midday because the shadows are just about under everything. So they're coming straight from the top. And then if I were to go back and I showed you something like this image, you can see that there aren't any shadows really. There's these little shadows at the bottom, but those are more occlusion shadows rather than direct light shadows. And the reason for that is because it's overcast. And the reason why overcast makes a difference to light is that when there's when the sun's behind the clouds, the water particles in the clouds diffuse the light. It diffuses the light. So the light is no longer direct, it's scattered. And when it's scattered in this way, it creates these soft shadows. Okay. So you have to decide what kind of lighting are you after for your scene. So in my case, I'm going to start with this one here because I like this. It's a beautiful day there. You can see the sun's shining. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to choose this 2K EXR, and I'm just going to download that. Right? So you can see there it's downloading. It's downloading that stuff. I'm just going to go and grab that. I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to drop it into our folder, which is our source images folder.
Alright, give me a second to put the file in a good place. Alright, here you go. That's done.
I'm just going to paste it in there. Now you can see I got rural asphalt road 2K EXR. Okay. Now that could be either be an EXR or an HDR file. If it's EXR or HDR, you know that you got the right kind of file. By the way, these files are very difficult to view in certain programs. That's why the icon stays white. Is because you're going to need to open this up in Photoshop or in a very particular kind of program to be able to view this image. Alright, so with that said, I'm going to go to this little swatch. Can you see this little swatch on the side here? I'll click on that, and I'm going to select file, because what I'm putting into my light is a file, and it's an image file particularly, but I'm going to choose the file. Then as soon as I do that, I'm going to go ahead and choose the file I want. In this case, it's this rural asphalt road file, and I'm going to choose open. As soon as I do that, you'll see a stark change to what that looks like. All of a sudden,
Oh idea, let's try that. Testing, just to see. Okay. Oh. That's okay. File. Let's select. Where's the video? Okay, let's render view. Oh, there we go. Nice. Very nice. Alright, so you look at the video.
We've got nice hard shadows, and you know, you can actually see some definition. The front is lit up, but the side is in shadow. So now there's a lot more definition there, and that's pretty cool. What I may do is just go to the perspective camera, oopsie, and just view the perspective camera just for now. I just want to show you what it looks like in the viewport. So there you can see you've got the front, got the side, and this is one-to-one that. Got the front, the side, and of course the back is also in shadow. There you can see that. Now this is feeling quite sluggish, right? But that's, even though I've got a fairly decent CPU, this takes a tremendous amount of effort for the computer to work out how to render this stuff. And even though it's, I think it's rendering really, really quickly, it feels sluggish to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pause this. Then I'm going to go to my render settings. I need to just find out what I'm going to be using. Oh, and it's not render settings here. It's actually going to be under my render settings here, which and that is found over there under this cog over here. And under system, I'm going to change my render device from render device CPU to render device GPU. And so now what it's going to be doing is going to be using these two GPUs, my graphics cards that are in my computer. It's going to be using those two to render out my image. So now that I've done that, if I restart this up, it'll take a few seconds, but now when I render, look how quickly it goes. It's like instant. It's because the CPUs are rendering a lot faster than the GPUs are rendering a lot faster than my CPU. Okay. So that's this particular light. Of course, the light can be changed by rotating it. So if you see there, I can rotate this round until the shadows are in the front. You know, and then the back of this is lit up, you know. So that's also pretty cool. If you were to do something like that and then maybe have a light on the inside, it could look quite nice. What I would suggest with this light though is when you're doing this, you can use this light as is like this. If you don't want to see the light itself, you can zoom down to the bottom here, and under the camera visibility camera setting, you can just take this slider all the way down, or you can just type 0 in there, and it will remove the image from the background so that you're really just focusing on your actual model. And
alright, so let's select that light. See if should I set to 0 so that just lighting itself is showing. Yes, very nice. Alright,
not all the background elements and so on, which is quite nice. Alright, so that is our sky dome light. Pretty cool light. I mean, it's the one we're going to use the most often, I guess, in production. But let me show you another light. Let me show you a different light and see what that looks like. So I'm just going to go up here and switch that light off for now. I'm also going to go ahead and I'm just going to go and place that light onto, I'm just going to remove that light. I'm just going to just type in, what is it? Skydome. Okay, and just give it a light, like a color like that. Okay. Now you can see nothing's happening in the scene because it's dark, there's no lights in the scene. I've sort of hidden that light, I've removed it for the time being. So that we can actually apply another light. Now, quite sluggish, and under the camera, as soon as I do, as soon you can zoom down to the bottom here, and under the camera visibility cap, you can zoom, you can, you can zoom down to the bottom here, and under the camera visibility camera setting, you can just take this, slide it all the way down, or you can just type 0. I'm going to use the most often, I guess, in production. But let me show you another light. Let me show you a different light and see what that looks like. So I'm just going to go up here and switch that light off for now.
Switch that off.
Also going to go ahead and I'm just going to go and place that light onto, I'm just going to remove that light. Just going to just type in, what is it? Skydome. Okay, and just give it a light, like a color like that. Okay. Now you can see nothing's happening in the scene because it's dark, there's no lights in the scene. I've sort of hidden that light, I've removed it for the time being.
Hit it now.
So that we can actually apply another light. Now, are we going to talk about this mesh light? In fact, let's talk about it now. There's no time like the present. So, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a cube. And I'm just going to go ahead and pop the cube somewhere, like, I don't know, like, let's put the cube on the inside. Why not? I'm just going to just grab that, put the cube on the inside, maybe make the cube a little bigger, something like that. And I want to turn that cube into a light, like a light cube in a way, right? So what I can do is I can select the object, any of these mesh objects, and I can say mesh light. So I'm going to click on that. And as soon as I do that, it's going to go ahead and...
Alright, so let's make this mesh into a light. So, there you go. Mesh light. There you go.
And what's it going to do? Hope it doesn't fall over, because Maya has a tendency to do that. So let's give it a second. See if Maya can recover from this. Yep, Maya has. Okay, probably a good time to save, right? So let's say File, Save Scene As. Let's not be silly about this. Of course, we've got our autosaves happening, so at least that's something. Alright, so there you can see the cube has indeed changed. It's like weird. Here in the viewport you can sort of see something's going on, but you can't really see exactly what's going on there. So what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is change normalize to off. We're going to switch normalize off. As soon as we do that, we can start seeing that indeed there is something there. But you don't actually see the cube. You just see like a white spot on the floor. Well, that's because there is an attribute here called light visible. So if you want light visible, then you're going to click on that. And it's going to show you the cube. Now, by making it light visible, it's saying that the cube itself is going to be a visible light. But that's not changing the amount of light that's coming into the scene. Okay? The things that will change the light from coming into the scene will be your intensity. So let's keep it visible, let's keep the cube visible, and let's start pushing the intensity up. There we go. Push the intensity right up to 10, and you can see that we now have that cube on the inside of our of the building, and it's sort of lighting everything up on the inside there. We make that cube bigger, it's going to emit more light, right? Because it makes sense. A small little light adds a small amount of illumination. If you have a bigger light, it adds more illumination. And so it works exactly the same way. If you were to keep this normalize property on, it means that it doesn't matter how big this thing scales, the only property that will ever change the amount of light coming in will be intensity. Here with this normalize off, the intensity property as well as the size of the light will indicate how much light goes into the scene. Okay. So of course, what a nice kind of light. Let's add a sphere. Let's do the same thing. These things scales. The only property that will make it a mesh light, wait for Maya. Obviously Maya has got to do some calculations and then start rendering it in a moment, the actual light, and then let's change the color to a different color and push the intensity up. Now we have those two lights illuminating on the inside of our environment. Any questions there so far?
There you go.
Okay, well, those lights are cool. I like those lights. I use them a fair amount. So, and we're going to use them in this project as well. But for now, I'm just going to go and delete those lights. And what's going to happen is you'll see once you delete this, the objects stay, and you're gonna have to delete the objects too, because look what happens. You delete that, and then so you delete the light portion of
Alright.
them, and now you can just delete the actual objects themselves. Alright, so I'm gonna hop on to the last light we're really gonna explore, because even though I'll talk about these two quickly. You've got mesh light, which we just explored. Then we've got something called photometric lights, and I'm just going to show you what they look like. Photometric light. This is what a photometric light looks like. You can see there, it's if you have a torch and you shine the torch, you'll see that the glass lens will create. Whoever makes light bulbs, they all end up publishing what that IES profile looks like. And so you can download these IES profiles depending on what you're trying to do with your lighting. So if you want to do some nice down lighting in your 3D office setup or whatever, then you have a look at a couple of these IES profiles and then find the one you like, add it to your light, and then it would give you those nice lighting artifacts around. Okay, that's IES lights. Portal light, quite simply, if you've got an interior and you're trying to brute force more photons into your scene, then you're going to use the light portal, and it pretty much does what it says. It's like a portal for light. It brings light in to an area that is dark and that is hard to light up. We sort of saw that even with our normal light, the sky dome light, when we added that. In fact, if I just went back to that, if I just went back to this and just enabled this light, then okay, so something's gone horribly wrong there. That does not look right at all. Let's just switch that off and do it again. No, that's something going wrong with that light. Why is it doing that? Full light just fills in all the dark areas inside your object. Let's just quickly. I just did save, so I'm just going to say. Recent. What light is doing even in a normal place, like in a normal shop, if you were to light it, if you were to just have a few windows, and you're not going to see the light penetrate all the way in. It's actually going to get darker inside, and that's okay. But that's another lesson, to try and figure out how to brute force all of those photons into your scene. It's not something we're going to cover during this time. Okay, cool. So with that said, let's add the last light that we're going to talk about, and that is our physical sky. So let's add that in now. Click on that, and straight away.
Alright. I'll use the physical skylight. There we go.
You see we have a result. Can you see there? We've got a result. Now what it does is it creates this sort of realistic sky environment where you've got the horizon and you've got the blue sky. Okay? The blue sky, and you've got sort of whatever ultimately ends up being the ground, or the ground horizon basically. So what you can do is you can start playing around with this light by going into your attribute editor. So here you can see it's called the AI, which is Arnold physical sky. You'll see that some of these things are similar, like intensity. If you just push the intensity up, it's with this light by going into your attribute editor. So here you can see it's called the AI, which is Arnold, physical sky. You'll see that some of these things are similar, like intensity. If you just push the intensity up, it's similar to any light. If I push the intensity up, you can see that it's getting brighter. If I bring the intensity down, you can see it gets darker. I'm just going to leave it at 1 for the moment because I'm going to change a few parameters here. So let's have a look and see what some of these mean. So I'm just going to start from this part.
What began on physical state? Ah, it says delay. Oh, there we go. There you go.
Part here, which is going to be the elevation. Now, if you know what elevation is elevate, which means higher. You can make something higher or lower. It's the elevate. So the elevation is either the height, sort of the height of the sun. And so here you can see the height of the sun. The elevation of the sun is at 45 degrees. Hence the fact that we actually have this shadow falling off at a sort of 45-degree angle, basically. Yeah, you can actually sort of get a sense of how that's falling. Yeah. If we were to take the elevation and push it to 90 degrees, that means that the sun is absolutely perfectly overhead, and you can see that by the fact that the shadow is exactly in the footprint of this object. You see that? If we were to take this elevation and push it down, we would see that that indeed the shadows are getting longer because the elevation of the sun is lower in the sky, right? So let's leave this then at 45, and let's look at the azimuth. So the azimuth of the sun is how it moves across the sky. So the elevations up and down. The azimuth is the rotation of it from east to west as it sort of goes down. So it rises in the east, goes down in the west. That is your azimuth. And so if you start turning that, you'll see that sun actually turns. You can see there we're actually turning the sun by doing that, pushing the azimuth around. So let's increase the intensity up a little. There we can see our building. Changing the azimuth will change where the shadow lies ultimately. And of course, changing the elevation will will change the height of the sun. And we can actually see that by looking up in the sky and looking at the elevation and seeing that indeed you can see the sun going up and down. And what's really cool about this is that when the sun is up, we see when the sun is up in the sky, we see this crisp midday look to our environment. But look what happens when the sun goes down. Automatically the shadows get longer, obviously, because the sun's going down, which means the shadows are going to get longer. But not just that, look what happens to the light. It starts getting more and more orange as the sun goes down, and there you can see it until it's nighttime, basically. But you can see what's happening is that it's actually creating this, what we call turbidity in the air, and that turbidity is all the fine particles of dust and smoke and fog and smog, for that matter, layer of atmosphere to get to where the building is, because it's obviously going at an angle through our atmosphere, not just going from the top through a thin atmosphere like that. And so because of that, it's picking up all the light is the photons have to come from the sun, and it's got to like go through all this. You know that by, if you look at it inside of a church and you see the light streaming through stained glass, you'll see that on the floor, the color of the photons that hit the floor are the same as the photons that came through the glass, and 90 degrees at midday all the way down. And so this is a great way to show a client if you were doing architecture, it'd be nice to show the client that you can go from the beautiful morning light. This is pretty much all our lights that we use, right? So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to need to do something to light our environment up. So I am thinking of using like some internal lighting, and I want to actually bring back one of our we're going to start by removing that light, and
Alright, now to time get really into the lighting. Let's leave that light. There you go. Okay, let's go.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring back one of our layers, which is the ground floor layer. Okay, and I want to actually put an HDRI back in. So let's go to create an Arnold light, and it's going to be a sky dome light. It's going to be a sky dome light, which is an HDR. I think what I'll do is just add in, maybe just add in that existing HDR that we have, just because we've got it already.
Okay, let's turn on. There you go. There we go. Alright, let's take a look. Yeah, I can see this is do it, guys. Okay.
So just open that, and if Maya will be kind enough not to freeze on us. I'll just go back. This is crazy, man. What's going on? What I do want to do though is I don't really want this background. For starters, I don't want that background. So I'm going to go down and switch off the camera. Just bring it down to 0. Also, this intensity is quite high. So let's have a look and see. What it looks like over here with this on. Let's render this out. that is okay. So let's just and just place it back there. So there are going to be times where you just got to work with Maya, and then restart the render view back up again and just place it back there. So there are going to be times where you just got to work with Maya, so that you can get over some of those little issues. Um, Maya does have a few issues here and there. Okay, cool. So with that said, we're going to start talking about some materials. So
Alright, before we go into materials, it's getting dark, so I'm just going to turn lights on. Be right back. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. I'm back. Let's put you on.
you can see here, if I'm rendering this out, you can see that it doesn't look into this. Now we do have some materials here. If you went to the rendering tab, you'll see we've got these materials, but these are old legacy materials. We're gonna really steer clear of those altogether. Okay. Um, this when you create a Maya's been around, and it's whenever you create a new model, it applies this Lambert material to your mesh so that you can actually see the mesh in your viewport. However, uh, now that we are ready to go and render, we're now going to change this material from this default gray Lambert to our own material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this ground plane. I'm going to right mouse click on it and go down to assign new.
Alright. Height. I turned the camera down. There you go. Oh, good. Is that gonna show that? So the light in there. Yeah. Oh, how do I guess I got. Like, yeah, it is. Yeah, show. Yeah, so. That's it. Yeah. Okay, yeah. How we at that? I guess. Ground. Alrighty.
Material. As soon as I do that, I'll get present.
Let's assign material to it.
This little pop-up. And what I'm going to do is, instead of using these materials, which are the old legacy materials inside of Maya, by the way, they do work, but we're going to go with the Arnold render shaders, because with these shaders, we can assure that we're going to get real world, um, like a real world experience between the real world lighting, the real world camera, and the real world shading. You're going to be able to create something that has that you can control as if it was something you're controlling in the real world. So I'm going to hit Arnold, and then I'm going to go down to this one here. Now you guys must remember this, because this is really the one we're going to be using almost entirely throughout this rest of this course when we do, as we're doing this 3D, the lighting portion. So you see it says AI standard surface. We click on that, and Maya has now applied this AI standard surface to our viewport. Now you can see it's already changed color a little bit from that gray to a white color. And so that's the first thing you'll notice. Now, obviously, we can go ahead and we can change the colors to whatever we want in this. We can go change it to a crazy color, or we can just, keep it white or whatever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe keep it as a slight off gray color, like that. So it's like a little bit of a gray color. But I'm going to make a few more changes to this. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm looking at this. I'm looking at my ground plane, and I'm seeing no reflection in my ground plane. So the reason for that is because we've got this roughness attribute. So if I take this roughness attribute all the way down, straight away you'll see that we actually have some reflection.
Video is like, let's take this camera slightly. Move it up. And let's scale this up. Anyway, just do this up really still up it. And move it back. Well, there's enough.
In our viewport, you can see there indeed this actual reflection. If I were to take this material and change the color of this material to a darker material like that, it'll become even more apparent that we have this reflectivity in our scene. And that's because we've taken the roughness all the way down to 0, which means it becomes like a mirror surface, right? So there's no roughness, which means that it's totally smooth, and therefore it looks like a mirror. Okay. As soon as we start pushing this roughness attribute up a little, we're adding more roughness in, and we're starting to get this nice, still reflection, but there's a little bit of roughness pulling into it, so that it reduces the reflection a little bit. So let's push this roughness up to something like that. Let's just change this color. And of course, I do want to push the intensity of this down quite a bit, because the way I see is we're going to be lighting that from the inside. And
alright, so let's do this.
as well. So I'm just going to reduce this down to 0.5, about half.
There you go.
And there you can still see some nice reflections in that ground. It's not very apparent, but once we put the lighting in on the inside, that should become quite more apparent as well. The other thing I want to do is maybe actually change this. I'm actually thinking of maybe changing our HDRI to something that doesn't have a direct shadow, you know. So let's have a look at something that's got no shadow, something that's really overcast. So I mean, if we're looking at something that's overcast, something like this will do. So let's look at that. That's overcast there. I'm just going to download that.
Okay, let's load it. Okay, give me a second to put all these this way. What to do? Let's see, we still there? Good. Good. Yeah.
So there we're downloading that. Ostklurfendal, EXR there, EXR. Open that. And now you'll see that it's really
Okay, so I'm gonna change the files.
changed the look of it. Can you see that? Yeah, look at that. It's really
Oh, there you go. Let's change it. There we go. Now it's much more cool.
changed the look of it. There's no more heavy shadows sticking out. It looks more like what possibly a dusk scene would start looking like in a way, to some degree. Okay, so happy with that. Now that's sort of where we are with that. Now we can just fiddle a little bit with the material for this. Bring the roughness down a little if you wanted to, so there's more of a reflection in the surface and stuff. And then I think we're pretty good. I'm just going to save that now. Okay, cool. So obviously the next step is we need to start applying some materials to this environment, to the different parts of this building. So let's actually do that now. I'm just going to switch that off for the moment and just go straight back to just to this. I'm just going to put this here on the side. The way you can minimize this, you just click on it and it will minimize that. And if you want it back, you just click on it again, and then that means you can actually play around here. If you press 6 on your keyboard, that is called textures and shaders. If you press 5 on the keyboard, that is just your shaders in your viewport, and that's going to start showing you sort of colors, some of the colors in your viewport. So I do know that I want these two objects along with that, and that along with these walls, and all these window frame things, all these window frames, all of these things need to be like a black color. So with that done, I've selected all of that, and I'm just going to go, oh, and of course these here also need to do the same. They need to be black, so that's fine. Right mouse click, and I'm going to say assign a new material. I'm going to choose Arnold standard surface.
Okay, so that and leveling. And material. Surface. There we go.
This time I'm going to bring this color all the way down, and straight away you can start seeing that we're getting that dark color in there.
And color down and down.
Yeah. But I don't want the door to be the same color. I want the door to be like a brownish color, like a door. So I'm going to go ahead and select all of these faces like that.
Alright, 1 second. I totally forgot to push the door, so let's do that. Oh, it's for let's see. I do this. Let's do like this. So there's that side, and there's this side. There we go. Let's do the whole thing over here. I'm gonna move it to get the wall. I can get it. Let me do. I always let me do. Yeah, you let me do the move. Here, let me do the move this way. Where's this video? Two. No. There we go. This one. Baby. Please. We can do the picture. Baby. Maybe 7-ish. It would not let me cut. I can't cut it better. There you go. Okay, good. Wait. Oh, there you go. Let me do this. Use this. Oh. If we have it like, let me have it like here. Oh, you know another way to do it actually. That's easier. 50, 50. a little tool here. Should I get a little higher? There. Okay, now let's select these faces. Oh, hello. Should we do it? Oh, because I'm gonna cut down here just a bit. There you go. Now this all these pieces. And over here. Oh, with that. Let me mess it up. Where would I use this? Here. Like that. Because we're having added the doorway earlier. So again. Oh. You take a brief intermission while I figure this out. So I take an intermission for the lighting while I figure this out. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do shape itself. That's hard. Bridge. Okay. This. With these two. Bridge. Oh. Hold up, I think connect. 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 Look, watch her. I don't know a way to do it. And that's just a weird ass way. Oh, that's really weird. I don't want it to look like that. Yeah, so enter. Okay. Oh, no. This is ugly rough. Yeah, I painted this. Yes. Almost orgasm. Oh, please put this acuity too high. Bring a little down, it's not going to go. Okay, this is just a door that everybody's just gonna deal with it. Okay. Sorry for the intermission, let's get back to it.
But keep in mind, I'm also selecting stuff in the background, so I must be careful. If I press 4, I must be careful that I don't select everything. So I can select all of that and then just deselect everything else that I've selected by mistake. And now I'll do the same. I'll go right mouse click, assign a new material.
Okay, so where's I use this stuff? Oh, is that good looking? How do you have to do? Oh, it's just like that. Oh, yeah, sure. Like that. There. Okay. Oh, select the faces. Choose. Oh. Okay. So let's just select all of this. Yeah, so beautiful as well. Lot of actually screen green. Is and this. Okay, that was there. Let's sign the material. No. Oh, okay. Surface figure.
Arnold, AI standard surface, and in this case what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll say AI door ground, something like that.
Go this side. AI tool. There you go. Good. Absolutely. And surface. This is AI door. One. There you go.
And I can go ahead and change this to a sort of browny color if I wanted to, just depending on what sort of thing I'm going for. Maybe like a dark brown, yeah, so that when we look at this again, we'll see that we now have the black and we got the dark brown, which is pretty sweet. Alright, so and then for this piece,
Okay, there we go. Doesn't look like that. Oh wait, there you go. Yeah, it looks okay.
here it looks like it's just going to stay like a cement color basically. I'm not gonna go mad. I'm just go and keep that as a cement color with quite a bit of roughness. It doesn't need to reflect or anything because it's concrete. Concrete doesn't really reflect much, and I'm just going to leave it at sort of like a whitish color. Right, and then for the ground,
Mm. Let's see. Yes, there we go. There's concrete color itself.
here you can see that they've got a texture on, which in this case is a texture which is a file texture. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but for now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to right mouse click, assign a new material, Arnold, AI standard surface. I don't know, we'll have to play around with it in these. Here, this tank, and then these little guys here. They all look like metal tanks to me from the reference. So if I look at the reference here, you'll see they look like little metal tanks, something like that. So let's actually make them into metal. Let's right mouse click, assign a new material, Arnold.
Right, for how he's doing that's how he's actually edited a bit. So I think I'm going to actually get rid of the link of these ones. And take that and okay. Cut the get a bit thick. There you go. And do the same to the size of it even. And I'm going to select and I'm going to extrude that. actually, oh, that's not good for it to be there. Instead, we're going to go multi-cut. Actually, we're going to do this first like that. Slide it along. Let's go multi-cut again. Yeah, that did it. Now we can select that, and we can extrude, and let's fix this we just there we go, and let's scale and here. And the same thing here. Extrude thickness and scale and just extrude there. Okay, this we can. And let's see, maybe like, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's duplicate it to here, duplicate it over time, here, maybe just so there we go. And now let's put all this in, duplicate it. There you go. Now we can get back to the tutorial.
Standard surface. Now,
Material. Standard surface.
when you've done that, nothing will be, it won't look any different. There won't be anything interesting. In fact, I can show you that. Let's run this. You'll see there that they are just these white tanks, nothing special there. So let's make them into metal tanks. Well, what makes something look metal? Well, it's got a reflection to it, for starters, okay? It's got a reflection to it. Luckily, with Maya actually has an attribute which is called metalness. Is something metal or is something not metal? And by moving that metalness slider, we can quickly start creating something that looks a little bit more metal. Look at that. With a single slider from
Alright, where is it? Metalness. Oh, where's 6? Oh, there we go. So that'd be good. Yeah. Yeah, it does look indeed like this one.
no metal to quite metal. So let's put it somewhere in between, around about there. Let's push this roughness up so it's not like a mirror finish. We want it to be not a mirror finish. It needs to be something like a, like a aluminium kind of look, maybe something like that. I don't know. You guys can decide how you want to approach that. Okay, cool. So there it is. There's our metalness. You can see that.
Okay. Let's move this here. There we go. There we go.
We've applied that, and all these things are now have that sort of metalness look to it. Pretty sweet. Okay. Alright, so I'm looking and I'm seeing that the black part isn't quite black enough, so of course we're going to have to push that down, get those blacks really popping out like that, and we're going to need to just have a look at some point just now and see what this roughness is doing when we put the few extra lights in. Okay, so that's cool. Let's go here, and I want to bring this down to 0.4, maybe even 0.3.
And 0.3.
3. So it's start dark on the outside. Okay, cool. So what parts of this do we still need to do? Let's just save this. I think we need to look at those bookshelves. So I'm just going to oh, and of course the interior, so like the ground, we probably need to put like a carpet kind of thing on the inside, but I'm not going to worry too much about that for now. Let's just select this and let us go and just make it so that we can see just those things. Hey guys, let's just quickly have a break. I don't want you guys to using your modeling toolkit, you can separate them. That sort of separates them out into their individual parts again. Okay. And what that will allow us to do is do this. So I can right mouse click, assign a material to the things that I think that need that color. So in fact it's not just that, but it's also all of these shelves that need that same wood color, right? So right mouse click, assign a new material, Arnold, AI standard surface, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually make it so that this has that I don't want it to be super
Okay, time.
moody. Let's just see what we can do here. You'll need to look to see what this looks like when we actually render it. So that's the one way, and then of course, you've got the paper, which it's currently a Lambert 2. What we're going to probably want to just do is select it all like that.
Select all bookshelves.
Assign a new material, call it Arnold AI standard surface, and this one is going to just be called AI paper, for instance. You can decide, and this wood is going to be called probably AI wood, something like that. And then the AI paper, it's going to have quite a bit of roughness. It's not going to be reflective at all. It's going to be quite white, so it's going to be pushed white all the way out like that. Okay, cool. So that's cool. The other way to do it is, of course, you could go ahead and if this is one single sort of thing, you could go ahead and select the individual faces of these things, and then apply the materials to all those individual faces in a way, so that you're applying it to like the AI wood to the parts that look like wood, and the AI paper to parts that look like paper, um, without actually separating them out.
I'm actually going to make the
You can
books
also do that.
different colors.
In this instance, though, I feel that the quicker thing to do here would be to separate them and apply the materials and be done. So in that case, what I can then do is I can actually, again, with this complete, I've got materials on there, I can go ahead and, because I separated it earlier, let me go ahead and combine it again. I was going to delete the history on that, and then rather go ahead and replace these. So select those two, remove them, and sort of replace them with new ones that are already completed. You see there. So these are already complete. So I can do that, and just have a look in my inside and just make sure that I'm not sort of going through any walls or something like that. So something like that. There we go. Alright, so now that I've done that, we can maybe go to the Arnold render view and we can sort of get a sense of what's sort of going on there. So there was an error somewhere along the line. It seems to think there's an error there, but it seems to have resolved itself. Okay, cool. So there you can see that's what's happening at the moment with that. Okay. Let's put something on the inside. Let's put some lights on the inside so we can actually get a sense of what this thing's going to look like.
Okay. We're running low on time, so I think I'm just gonna I'll leave this. I'll do the rest of the books later. Let's go back to this.
I'm gonna go ahead and start by creating. So that we can.
I'm supposed to see what this looks like now. Oh, it's very dark blonde in color. Everyone.
We can do a couple of things here. We can add an area light. So we can go lights, area lights. The area light is sort of flat. So normally what you'd want to do then is you'd want to turn it up like that so that it's pointing down. And wherever you see that little line, that line is the direction that the photons are traveling. So that's the light direction. Okay. So if you had to do something like that, you could just take that and put it on the inside over here. You could put that on the inside, maybe scale it up a little. Obviously you're going to need to go change the normalize to off and push the intensity up a little so that when you do view this, that indeed you've got some light on the inside there. Can you see there? There's light on the inside. Maybe that light, maybe you don't want the light to be that color, but you want to emphasize the color of the wood, and so you're going to take this and you're going to push that yellow orangey color so that it's actually more more intense basically. Now this area light can also change shape. See, it says light shape quad, but we could also say that that is going to be a cylinder or a disc. So it can either be a cylinder, in that case maybe it's worth these really nice reflections coming out of these windows, which is quite nice. See there? Pretty sweet. Portion, okay, and I'm just going to duplicate it. So there's our roof portion. I'm going to go ahead and sort of scale it down and scale it in, and just scale it on that axis as well. So it's just quite thin. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that down, and I'm going to make that our sort of the panel that you see under the roof. Because now what we can do is we can actually take that object, the whole object, right? Right mouse click and we can say this, nope, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to select that object and we're going to just turn it into a light. So we're going to say lights, mesh light. So straight away that becomes a mesh light. We're going to switch normalize off and we're going to just see what that does to our render. Okay, so there we can see it's actually lighting everything up there.
Alright, so now I'm going to take this top section and say Control D. I'm going to move it down, scale it in, okay, take it up so it's not visible. And with it selected, use it. Alright, so this is big mesh light. Just turn normalize off and see how this helps light the inside. Okay, so we can need to up intensity. Up intensity. There, and how it's beginning to light up the inside. Where is it? The top is being lit up, but there's only the bottom is being lit up. Ah, because there's a hole. Let's see if I can fix that hole, because it's just not, so I'll be using area like instead. So light up the inside. Fix it here. That one, let's try that a bit. iPad here. Second. Touch it, and all these and finish the whole bridge. Nope. Alright. Okay, here's the shift. I know. I'm unhided. Plan B is just like putting something in front of it. Nobody's gonna see it. It's fine. So yeah, be careful if you want to build something shape like this again. It's like a thin panel that you put over this thing. So hopefully I'll block the light. If not, that'll just take the whole thing. Let's do it slightly scale it slightly. This is really fun. And now we see this. So we see this blocks up the hole. And so the area lights to be clear. So let's take this and down to the floor. Okay, let's see that right. Or yeah. Zero science for you. Alright, so and there we have in this case. And on the baby. So this panel. Delete the area and delete this as well. So plan B is let's add an area light in. Area light. Take this 90 degrees. Next it's this. We go. Okay, so the render view. Thing again. Treat over there. Off. Doesn't with it. No, better. That happens. Like there's a hole. So just leave it. Okay, let's do this again. Do that. Scale it down. Move it up. So the mesh right with it. No. And it has the just do the fact that it's lighting up there. In fact, you want to see the new. Okay, I want to keep that to show me the metal, but these different stuff. choose to feel white. I actually want to choose yellow. Oh my god, that much just to give this slightly what? Yes, maybe orange actually. There you go. Alright. Oh, dear. Yeah, not entirely sure exactly what I want, but I'll do that. Alright, so it is nearly 2 hours, so I think we're gonna call it for a day. I think I'll maybe come back to this on Wednesday, I think, to finish it up. Thank you so much to anybody who came today, and I bid to y'all adieu.